Central Bank of Nigeria has released its consolidated financial statements for the last 7 years amid an investigation into its financial management. The long-awaited statements had raised concerns about integrity in the Apex Bank's financial management.
Recall that President Tinubu had appointed a special investigator, Jim Obaze, to probe CBN and its other businesses following the removal of Godwin Emefiele. There had been calls for the CBN and other public interest entities to disclose their financial statements yearly, as it is a core of transparency and accountability surrounding the activities of public interest entities.
Now, the financial statements released are for 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, all the way to 2022. To help break down this report, we're joined by financial analyst Gbolahan Olojide. Thanks and good morning, Mr. Olojide.
Yeah, good morning. Nice to be on the program.
Good to have you. Now, President Bola Tinubu appointed a special investigator to probe the CBN amid, of course, the suspension of Godwin Emefiele. What specific aspects of the bank's operations do you think that the investigations may be focusing on? And, what do you think we might find, as a result of this probe? Of course, it was already shocking to a lot of Nigerians that, the audit was, or they were releasing a report for a good 7 years. But let's talk about the audit.
Okay. Like you said, we've not had any report for 7 years. So obviously, what is going to happen is that people will review the report that has been released, with looking through all the fine print, because we've not even had any for so many years. So literally every aspect of the report will be looked at to see if there are issues, what were the audit comments, what were the audit concerns, what were the critical items in the balance sheet or in the income statement that require our attention. But more importantly, issues around flagrant, disobedience to the law, disobedience to the law of the land. The law setting up the CBN requires that those accounts be published annually. So the question is, how come we all went to sleep when accounts were not being published for 7 years? There is the executive, which has the responsibility primarily. There is also this National Assembly with supervisory responsibility. How come everybody failed in their responsibility and we all went to bed when CBN was not publishing account for 7 years? It is absolutely not acceptable and is a dereliction of duty on the part of both the CBN, or the executive, as well as the National Assembly with supervisory responsibility.
I'm glad that you've mentioned all of this, because I was going to ask you, where the blame lies. Well, we can see that it is a shared responsibility and a number of people have actually defaulted. Now, the released financial statements cover a span of 7 years. Since 2015, we haven't had a report. But from the reports that you saw, there have been mixed reactions on social media, different people reacting differently. What insights would you say we can gain by analyzing these statements across multiple years? What were the things that stood out for you when you looked at this report, and how might these help assess the bank's financial performance and the trajectory for the coming year?
The most important thing for me was how the report emphasized the FX supply problems that we had. So you take the reserves, you see that a portion of the reserve, we have issues around security lending. Why does an organization lend its security for cash? It shows that organization is in need of the cash, but it doesn't want to sell the security, so it pledges the security and it gets cash. That supply issue is still there up till today. So when you hear issues around how IATA at some point was saying Nigeria owes the most across all other countries in the world to members of the IATA, you know exactly what it is talking about. When you see the way the Naira has continued to slide against the dollar since the collapse of the multiple exchange rate into a single window, you begin to also remember how important the issue of supply has been. So if we had been having annual report, we would have been able to pick the supply issue and ask questions. We would have been able to pick the issues of huge money printing that has happened over the years, totaling eventually to about over 23 trillion naira. We'll have been able to ask questions because there are laws that are guiding this matter. If you will observe, the U.S. Sometimes does have to lift his debt ceiling. So he has a debt ceiling. I remember that during Trump, it had to be lifted 2 times. During the current president, it had been lifted again also to allow the government to borrow the more. But what is different is the transparency around that, a robust discussion around that. When you're going to do that in the U.S., you bring it to the parliament or the Congress. People must debate it. Questions must be asked. But in Nigeria, it was all kept silent. Money was being printed over the years, and it accumulated in that amount, and it was in flagrant disregard to the law, because the law provided for how much you can print, and is a temporary so-called. The temporary so-called not only built up, it also went on over years upon years, and there was no transparency around what was being done. That was another problem that you can see through that release.
Yeah, it's really shocking, to a lot of people. There's, persons who have also pointed out some positives, like, the bank also pointed some profits that it made, between 2021 2022, but the rest of it, that are really, really mind-blowing to Nigerians, cannot be overlooked. And one of them is the part where we're owing about $14 billion that we have taken from international banks. It is said that, we took those loans, of course, with our foreign reserves as, collateral or something like that. So help explain what exactly played out there. And if it is factual that, the 30 plus billion, dollars that we supposedly had in foreign reserves may actually be about 20 billion or less.
Okay, security lending is not as strange as being presented. Organizations here in Nigeria, domestic financial service institutions and capital market operators do from time to time have to do, pledge security for cash. What normally leads to that is that you need cash, but you have security. You don't want to sell your security at that point in time. So instead of selling your security to get that money, you pledge it and you collect cash from someone else. Even people do that even with cash, what you call cashback loans in the domestic economy here, where someone has a fixed deposit but needs cash and doesn't want to crash the fixed deposit. You have a cashback facility and you can have access to the cash that you need. So it is not a particularly strange thing. However, what should have helped us is if we have been getting an annual report. By now, if we have seen issues around security lending over the last 2 or maybe 3 years, we will have asked questions. It will have been explained unto us. We will have known exactly what is going on. And if we think that our reserve is not being correctly captured, we will also have been able to ask questions that, look, that amount of reserve you are publishing at the CBN website or being reported widely does not agree with this other number that is showing up in the statement. And we will be able to force the hand of government to reconcile that position and tell us exactly what the situation is. But when you don't even have an account to look at, it is the embarrassing part that I hope we will never go back to anytime soon. Let me also add that most of the money printing that happened, while CBN, is said to be autonomous and all the rest of it, it is probably the citizens that were kept in the dark. Because when those money were being printed, the National Assembly, the state government, everybody, all levels of government were the beneficiaries of those notes that were being printed. So it would have been said that they were all in the know, but the citizens were kept in the dark, and we should have been carried along.
All right. Mr. Lojide, Well, there's so much, that needs to be said, but of course, currently the former CBN governor is still in, custody of Nigeria's security agencies for a gun charge, not even any of these. And of course, former President Muhammadu Buhari is not even being mentioned in any of these conversations when he was in charge of the country for those years. But we will be speaking with you again, Bola Olojide. It's always interesting bringing you in on these conversations. I would like, that our next conversation also goes into explaining what must be done if we're going to salvage Nigeria's currency at this point, because Naira likely is going to hit 1,000 or even more in the next couple of weeks, which is scary for a lot of people. But we, of course, would like to speak with you again. Hopefully we can schedule another conversation this week. Thanks for your time.
Thank you for having me.